allegedly. But you guys can listen back too. Yeah, so one of the really important things, if you see Brahms 1, most of the time what you're going to be talking about is letter E. Some of this, you'll see this second movement excerpt pop up, and I've seen it in auditions, I've seen fourth movement, right? Fourth movement is really fast. It has a lot of similarities to Mozart 41. The last movement of Mozart 41 and Brahms 1 sound very similar. That was done very intentionally, and you can see it in the low string parts, absolutely. So one of the keys for understanding how this movement hangs together and to get the attention to detail correct is arranging these accents on a continuum, right? So you've got your normal note right down the middle. That's all the way back here, right? Then you've got legato. There's not a lot of legato in this. This is a very sort of muscular moment in this movement. The very first thing you can do to the note is put a dot on it, right? A dot isn't an accent. A dot is merely more space between notes, right? No front of note accent, just creating more space. So the end of note is cut a little bit short to create room. Then you go from staccato to staccatissimo, right? These upside down triangles. That is dot with space, but a little bit of front of note accent, right? Then you have re-accent of forte, double forte accent, right? If you see it the first time, it means immediately go to forte. And then he's going to remind you. He's going to keep saying, oh, we're still forte. Even every time you see that, treat it like an accent, right? Ooh, I forgot one. There's also going to be, I think it's here. Sorry, in between staccatissimo and fortissimo, you've got sideways caret. This is our standard accent. This is very visual. It's exactly the same as it sounds. We haven't started putting juice on the front of the note all the way as much yet. It's not sforzando in that there's not a nasty front of note accent. It's literally starting loud and getting softer. It's a tiny decrescendo, but it implies that your dynamic is going to come up a little. So this is the beginning. These two are where the ambiguity lies. There's a lot of, so you have your shortness, and then you have a sort of longer accent that will grow a little in volume and then come immediately down. It's a tiny decrescendo that you come up a little bit for. Then you have rearticulation in forte, right? Just reminding everybody and reminding the audience that we're still in double forte. So yum bum bum, but it has to be less than the granddaddy, right? You gotta have sforzando all the way at the very end. So looking over at letter E, right? Immediately we've got dots. The bass dynamic is double forte. So fill the bass, really get to the end of the fingerboard, drive that sound as much as you can. We've got dots, measure 1, measure 3, we have carets, right? So we're making our decrescendo, but making those accents. And then immediately comes sforzando, right next to each other, right? So the key is not putting in extra accents, and then putting those accents in a continuum so that you realize when you really need to sell out for those sforzandos, for those double forte rearticulation accents, and a little bit for those carets. And then when you're making the difference between dot and staccatissimo, right? It needs to be a little more or a little harder when you get the staccatissimo idea, which is just fun to say. Right, so we're going to have, this will be fun, I haven't played in 3 hours. Right, you're starting to really gorilla out that stroke. It's all coming from the shoulders. Not that you should tense up, you shouldn't lock up ever, because this still needs to be flexible, but this stroke starts from the side and from the back, and I like to think of it coming from these sort of side muscles. It's really going to be driven by the shoulder and the arms and the big unit of motion, right? Because it's not a speed game. It's an attention to detail game, and putting those accents right where they belong, right? Accent, but not as much as the sforzando, right? There, right? lot of auditions will specify first ending. I hate the first ending, it doesn't sound good. It's not a good ending to this excerpt. I would really prefer to do the second one, because it sounds great in the first place, right? So I know that wasn't the best example, I'm not super warmed up, my strings are real low for Brahms, but you wanna make a continuum where those accents lie, and keep that tempo rolling. That's in my opinion, that's right where the tempo should be, right? Right? And also, you have another problem. You have a distribution problem with you have a bow speed problem, right? So as you make the string crossing, you've got, right? You've got this length versus almost half the length on the bottom, right? So you have to be real careful to sell out on the top, and then immediately become compact, right? I like to think of the stuff at 169 as the sort of bass stroke, right? As the thing. And also, something to notice is you have chromatic movement starting 169, da 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 da, right? Make those long notes long, right? This is still, we're not into modern music yet, but we're deep out of Mozart, where these notes are going to naturally taper, right? If this was Mozart, we'd be thinking that. No, we're deep into Brahms territory. Really shoot for length on that. For a long time, I did this excerpt that went. I've moved away from doing that since now, but the reason I did that was so I could get absolute full length, right? It's really hard to pull off, and my strings are a little low to pull that off, but that's the aesthetic we should be going for. Really try to hide that retake and stay long in the left hand, even though you're retaking, right? Hold that sound further and further, and these accents need to be supplemented by lots of left hand intensity, right? The fingering is more or less pretty easy. I would cross over in, let's look at measure 171, 172. I would get to the C flat with 2, and then go to the D string. For that, it's diminished, isn't it? A, C, D, F, A flat, C flat. Yeah, D diminished. You have diminished motion. So I would get to 4 on the A flat there, and then it kind of plays itself. But for the most part, left hand is not the issue. It's all right hand, and tempo and attitude is the idea here, right? Let's look ahead. That's your major excerpt. I would really try to lock in as much as possible with this one. It's the most important of Brahms 1 excerpts. It's the crown one. But there are lots of other spaces to look at, right? Let's look ahead to the second spot, 333. There's a weird articulation where he puts sforzando at the beginning and staccatissimo on the next beat.
Can you give that in reference to a rehearsal marking?
Sorry, that is before L. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 before L.
On the G?
D, da, right? These re-articulate. It doesn't look like they do, but you're going to go. Right? Great extension spot. What is that? I would start that triplet down bow. Down, so you can get full length and tons of pop right at the frog. That's an attitude spot, right? I'm talking 2 before L. I would take those down. Bup, 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 bup. E flat, D. I would use the extension every time. Let's talk fingering for the thing on the F sharp. I would go 4 and then shift. Right, 4, 4, 2, 1, 4. Right, so you're shifting after the long note. Come to the D, and then A. thumb just harder. There's a really good opportunity for some thumb fingering work here, right? You really don't have to come down the string all the way. From 3, 1, thumb, 1, right? 2, 1, thumb, 1. And then I actually go to the D string here and go, because you've got a dot on that note and it's double forte. So the G is not going to stick out. Everybody and their mother's playing right now, so won't go amiss, right? As long as you kind of shorten it up and don't nail that open G, it'll be okay. Or come down the string, also acceptable. The string crossing makes it harder, right? And then the other thing that we need to remember about Brahms is he's super into cross rhythm. He's super into polyrhythm. So 2 against 3. Does everyone know what I mean by 2 against 3? Right? So if you're in 6, he's gonna throw duples in there all the time, and he's gonna syncopate everything. So you'll have duples and it'll be syncopated. That's exactly what's happening in 354, right? Right where you start, I would start that down bow, right? Because the feeling you're getting is right, I would get, but that D flat, bebop, is going to feel like a downbeat rather than a pickup. It's not B-dum, it's D-dum, B-dum. The violins are doing the same thing. Treat it like a downbeat. Those are your major things to look out for, right? Long notes, shift after the long notes, and bum, and that'll start to play itself. If you try to connect those first two, you're going to be out of luck because you'll be shifting right through the slur in a really nasty way, right? I would shift after that long note. Let's move on. Let's look second movement real quick. So the big spot in the second movement is 6, 7, 8. 8 after B. That's measure 17. Pick up to 17. Tempo is huge here. Oh boy, I'm going to mess this up nasty. And this is a big left-hand issue because we're in a gross key. We've got flats in a sharp key signature. I don't know why. I haven't done the theory. I don't know why. Something gross is happening and I don't like it, right? This is a real intonation eliminator. This is the one if you're going to call Brahms 1 and you want to get rid of half the people in the audition, you call the second movement because half the people won't have the intonation set up, right? So the attention to detail here needs to come in dynamic and intonation, right? First note eliminates a lot of people as well because you need to pace that dynamic. C sharp open. You don't have to play it in orchestra. This is a great place for a low C sharp. It sounds amazing in the orchestra. I wouldn't do it in an audition. In an audition, I would just leave it open so you get all that resonance. I would definitely leave the C sharp open. It's a nasty intonation spot. It's really hard to find a fingering for 54 and 55. I would take that immediately to your lesson and figure out something that works. I honestly have never been able to find a fingering that made me happy. It's really gross. You've got flats and a sharp keys, or sharps and a, no, it's all sharps at this point. But the other big thing to keep in mind is oftentimes 3 before C, there's going to be not only diminuendo, but retardando. So you'll get right, so that's going to come away, and oftentimes it's going to slow down just a little bit, but it's nice to have it there because most places, most orchestras will do that. Let's look let's continue our guided
This
tour.
one doesn't actually start at 16, does it? It starts like at 40 something.
Oh, it's 46, not, yeah, sorry, my fault. It's bad printer work. It looks like a 16. Third movement will not be called on auditions 99% of the time, but if you're ever playing this piece, this gets a lot of people in trouble. If you ever get an orchestra job and this comes up, this is the spot to look for because it's going to get you, right? We've gone into F sharp minor, right? And we're in E, so we have a lot of sharps that don't belong there. F sharp minor is going to become F sharp major. We're going back to B major. There's a lot of nasty things to look out in this, right? And it's delicate. Right? You've got string crossings to worry about, you've got dynamics to worry about, and you've got intonation. This part gets a lot of people in trouble, especially as we get towards the repeat signs, right? A sharp. Not friendly. There's a lot of stuff in there that can mess you up. So it's a really good attention to detail spot to look for in case you ever have to play this in orchestra. On a side note, this is like the most beautiful second movement ever written in any symphony ever. It's a great opportunity to do some listening. It'll just fill your heart out. This movement's incredible. Now, it's the third movement. It's lovely. It's really nice. One of the best clarinet solos in the rep. Now we get into the last movement. Just like Beethoven 5, this is a minor to major symphony, right? We start C minor, we end C major. Weird for the time period. Brahms knew exactly what he was doing, who he was copying. Brahms 1 is often thought of as Beethoven's 10th symphony in that sense. It took him, Brahms was working as a composer for like 25 years before he came out with his first symphony, because he felt like he had this ghost of Beethoven hanging over him, right? And then he finally comes out with Brahms 1 and everybody loves it. It's immediate success, right? It copies a lot of tropes from Mozart and Beethoven. I don't know if anyone has their Mozart book with them, take a look at the last movement of Mozart 41, right side by side with some of these 16th notes in the last movement of Brahms 1. You'll see really striking similarities. That was very much intentional, right? The spot you're going to see, the two spots you're going to see in the last movement are starting at letter D and letter K, right? So both will have this idea. Pay attention to, now we have dots, and we have accents, and we have sforzandos all over again, and tons of syncopation. So syncopation needs to pop in the first place, and we have accents. Right. Right, treat these as downbeats. Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da. It's really going to feel like they're downbeats, in a sense. That's the best way to think of them for me. Then you're going to come back to this more standard. Right? Right? Poppy, muscular, angry. Right? Brahms was, and his later life, not at this point, actually Brahms was really handsome as a young guy. When he got older, he got real fat. Think fat this whole time, right? A big old fat guy who's just sitting in that chair forever, but then he starts playing, you just get, right? Really start to fill the bass up. Same idea at letter K, same rhythm, same idea. You just get more of the good 16th notes, right? I know we're gonna run up right on time. Let's play a little bit of the first movement together. Well, you play it, I'll sit, because it's always me. Let's look at the first movement, and it is, I would say, as much as any spot we're going to look at all year, it's really imperative that you do a lot of listening work in the second movement. There's a lot of stuff rhythmically getting that tempo in really set that just looking at the music won't do. I would say it's vital to really listen to the music always, but even more so in a spot like the second movement. There's a lot of little things that listening to a recording you'll be able to pick up a lot quicker. Let me try and find the spot at E. Oh, no, I was wrong. It's further. Sorry. We're in this rest before E. Wait for the clarinet, the horn, see your cues. Oh, you can't miss it. We're in the top of the line, top of the second page. Now we've gotten into these rests. And 4, 5, 6, let's just wait. If I fast forward, we'll miss it. Those are your pickups to really lock in for. It's a great day to play the French horn. G flat. Short as you can get it. It's not that easy, right? Now we're going back, right? Let me just double this in terms of time. Oh, they didn't take it. We're at F. Da, E, da, E, da, 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 E, da, 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 da. Right, we got this stuff too. I'm going to keep going a little so we can find our spot before L. Yep, we're in that rest, I think. We're after I. K. Fourth of K, fifth of K, bum 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 da 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 bum all the way down, yup. Right? We're back to exposition. We had recap. Right? Feels like Danby's, right? That's our feeling, right? A lot of things are weird. A lot of things aren't where they're supposed to be. But it's Brahms. He's going to throw a lot of rhythmic complexity at you. There's a lot of good stuff to look at here, right? A lot of these like dun dee dun dee da da. Think about those last notes or dun dee da da dee da da. Make sure you can hear that every time, and you'll be able to throw it off, right? Especially that high one. It's actually, if you shift after the long note, it's not bad. It's going to take me forever to find our spot in the second movement. Trust me, you need to find a recording you love and listen to it. Second movement, there's so much bend and stretch in a lot of places, especially in this excerpt. How that crescendo is going to work, right? Just find a recording you love and copy it. Third movement, same idea. Third movement is more of a be careful situation because it's not going to get called in auditions, but you need to know that it's out to get you. And the same at the end. Dee-da-dum, dee-da-dum, right? G flat, what is that? C diminished, A flat, dominant seventh, A flat, C flat, E, A flat, C, E flat, G flat. In triplet, coming under a slur, it's out to get you, right? These are little spots that are just going to catch up with you. Let's look chorale in the last movement. What did Dana play the trombone? Just like Beethoven 5, they sit the whole time, they only play the last movement, right? We're coming up to Allegro ma troppo con brio, top of page 8, measure 61. Here it is. We pick up with the violins. Right? Lift off the downbeats. Just like Beethoven 9 has this lovely chorale theme in the last movement. Simple, perfect. You know, just works. That's your mood for this whole movement, right? Just drive. Forward motion, looking to drive, looking to move the tempo forward. In this situation, you're playing timpani. You're not playing a string instrument. You're really trying to move the tempo forward. You know? Yeah, just tons of, just filling the bass, looking for sound the whole time. I was also going to say in 102, bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. Great place for a hook bowing if you can keep your forte all the way at the tip. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down. If you can't, if it tapers as you get to the tip, do retakes. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But more length, always a good thing in Brahms. Down, up, down, and keep that intensity flowing all the way forward. Great place for hooks. Same thing after letter K, you get the exact same stuff. Yeah, that's really the gist of what's going on, right? So it's not going to kill you with how fast it is, for the most part. I mean, the first time you see it, it's like, oh crap, but it's really not out to get you with speed. It's little details and just filling the bass with nice, fat, resonant sound. That's the key. All right, we're 5 minutes over time, but that should do it for next time. I sent out a list. I should have included Schubert 9 on that list from the email. I just was thinking later, I was like, oh, I should put Schubert 9 on there. If something strikes you, let me know, we'll play it. I've got Tchaik 4, Mendelssohn 3, Mendelssohn 4, Mendelssohn Fingal's Cave gets called sometimes, and it's a great excuse to play a really banging bass part. Don Juan, Alsosprach, and Heldenleben, we should pick A. Strauss to concentrate on. I would personally throw my vote in for Alsosprach because there is a 4-part bass fugue that's a 12-tone row. That's really fun. It would be good to get everybody together and do an extra rehearsal and then put that together. There's a lot of great Debussy in the bass that really gets used nicely. And you'll get to Heldenleben, you'll get to Don Juan every time, but Zarathustra gets overlooked sometimes. And I think it's his best piece. It's just a really incredible piece of music. We need to do something that's very modern, whether that's Nielsen, Elliott Carter, Dutilleux, something that's going to really be outside of the mold of what you would normally expect. Elliott Carter Boston Concerto is on the Tanglewood list like every year. If you want to go to Tanglewood, that's one you're going to have to master. It's really gross, but they love modern music in Boston for some reason. We should look at a Mahler. It would be wise to take a look at some of the orchestral solos for bass. That's Pulcinella, Mahler 1, Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, Ginastera, Variations Concertante, Haydn, Horn Signal Variation, right? There's 5 or 6 that really need looking at. Verdi, Othello, opening to Act 4 is another big one of my favorites. And then optionally, we could do another Beethoven. We could do Beethoven 9 or Beethoven 3. Those get called. But we've already done 2. So I would take a Mendelssohn, a Tchaik, something super modern. Also, par for the course on a lot of auditions would be exposition of a concerto, a standard concerto of your choice, Von Holt, Dittersdorf, Kusevitsky, Bottesini, and a movement of Bach. For audition Bach, I would really recommend Gigue from the 1st suite, Gigue from the 5th suite, Berets from the 3rd suite. Don't overthink it, do something simple. You don't want to spend your time thinking about the Bach movement you're going to play. Just do something simple and play the snot out of it and play it every day, but keep it simple, you know? There's no sense learning like the Allemande from 5th suite because you're going to spend your whole time doing that, right? That's why I choose not to play Bottesini Concerto for a lot of auditions, because you're going to spend your whole time doing Bottesini Concerto and then the excerpts aren't there. I do Von Hall every single time. It's simple. You just put it in a mold, just hit the fairway, you know? Just get the ball out there and you'll go from there, you know? So yeah, there's a lot. If there's something anyone really doesn't want to do, let me know. You may not get your wish if you're like, I don't want to do anything after 1975, but yeah, if there's anything that's really on your list that you want to get to, also let me know. Does anyone have any ideas of something they're really looking for?
I want to do some orchestra, like the solos, orchestral solos.
Okay.
That would be good.
Yeah.
I agree on the Strauss too.
Also
I
Strauss?
already did the other
Yeah.
one anyway, so
Yeah.
that's the only one I even know.
Yeah, so we would also be doing the one with those crazy runs in it.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
The black page. Yeah. Yeah. It's not as bad. It's all the same collection of notes, just put in a different starting position. But yeah, it's gross. It's gross the first few times you have to learn it, and then you're like, oh right, it's kind of just the same. But yeah, it's good to get that in as soon as you can, so that when you revisit it, you'll be like, oh, this isn't so bad. And in the orchestra, it's totally covered up anyway. It's way more gestural. But there's so many other great spots in Zarathustra. But yeah, definitely looking forward. Mendelssohn 3 is, if we chose Mendelssohn 3, that'd be arguably by far and away the hardest thing we do. I would go with Mendelssohn 4. Fingal's Cave is really, really good. It's got a really good bass part. We've got Verdi, Forza del Destino. There's all kinds of stuff we can look at. take a look at some of the stuff on that list. Remember Schubert 9, the Symphony of Incredible Length, is also in there. Schubert 9's got excerpts for days. First movement, second movement,